The night was young, but darkness had already claimed the city streets. A chill wind whistled through empty alleys, carrying with it the unsettling feeling of being watched. It was the kind of night where shadows seemed to dance, and every corner held the potential for something sinister. For one unsuspecting individual, that feeling of dread would soon transform into a chilling reality, an encounter that would forever be seared into their memory. The story begins, as many stories of the unknown do, in the quiet solitude of late-night routine. A walk home, perhaps, or a late-night jog to clear the mind. Whatever the reason, our protagonist found themselves alone, navigating the labyrinthine streets under a sky devoid of stars. The air was thick with humidity, the silence broken only by the distant hum of traffic and the rhythmic tap of their own footsteps. It was a night like any other, or so it seemed. The streetlights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows that stretched and contorted with each passing moment. Our protagonist, lost in their thoughts, paid them little mind. The rhythmic tap of their footsteps provided a sense of normalcy, a comforting counterpoint to the eerie silence of the night. But as they rounded a particularly dark corner, the silence was broken. A low rhythmic clapping cut through the stillness, slow and deliberate, like the beat of a morbid metronome. Startled, our protagonists paused, their heart pounding in their chest. They strained their ears, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound, their eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. The clapping continued, each clap echoing through the empty street, drawing nearer. Fear, primal and instinctive, began to creep in, tightening its grip on their chest. The street was deserted, the buildings looming like silent sentinels on either side. The clapping grew louder, closer, each clap sending a jolt of adrenaline through our protagonist's body. They quickened their pace, their breath catching in their throat. Suddenly, the clapping stopped. A wave of relief washed over them, only to be replaced by a more profound sense of unease. They turned slowly, their eyes desperately searching the darkness. And then they saw him. Standing beneath a flickering streetlight, bathed in its sickly yellow glow, was a man. He was tall and thin, his clothes ill-fitting and nondescript. But it was his face that sent a chill down their spine. He was smiling, a wide, unnerving grin that stretched across his face, revealing a set of teeth that seemed too large, too sharp, too white. His eyes, wide and unblinking, stared directly at them, filled with an unsettling intensity that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Time seemed to stand still as our protagonist locked eyes with the smiling man. A wave of dizziness washed over them, their legs feeling like lead. They wanted to scream, to run, but their body refused to obey. The man's smile, so out of place in the desolate darkness, held them captive. It was a smile devoid of warmth, of genuine emotion. It was a smile that spoke of madness, of something sinister lurking beneath the surface. This unsettling feeling, this primal fear triggered by the smiling man, can be attributed in part to what is known as the uncanny valley. This psychological phenomenon describes the feeling of revulsion we experience when confronted with something that looks and acts almost human, but not quite. The smiling man, with his exaggerated features and unsettling grin, fell squarely into this valley, triggering a deep-seated fear response in our protagonist's brain. Their instincts screamed at them to flee, to put as much distance as possible between themselves and this thing. The internet is awash with theories, each attempting to explain the phenomenon of the smiling man. Some dismiss it as a case of mass hysteria, fueled by the anonymity of the internet and the human penchant for storytelling. Others posit more paranormal explanations, whispering of demons, of extra-dimensional beings, of entities that exist just beyond the veil of our reality, occasionally slipping through to terrorize the unsuspecting. And then there are those who believe the smiling man to be something far more mundane, yet no less terrifying. A serial prankster perhaps preying on people's fear of the unknown. Or worse, a predator using the guise of the urban legend to disarm his victims, lulling them into a false sense of security before attacking. Whatever the truth may be, one thing remains certain. The smiling man has tapped into something primal, a deep-seated fear that resides within us all. The haunting power of the unknown. The smiling man, much like other urban legends that have captured the public's imagination, speaks to a universal fear of the unknown. It is the fear of what lurks in the shadows, of the things that go bump in the night. It is the fear of the unexplainable, the things that defy logic and reason. And it is this fear, this primal instinct to avoid danger, that has allowed the story of the smiling man to persist, to be shared and reshaped, to evolve into something far greater than the sum of its parts. The encounter with the smiling man, brief and unsettling as it is, leaves a lasting impression. It is a stark reminder that the world is not always a safe and predictable place. It is a reminder that there are things in this world that we cannot explain, things that defy logic and reason. And it is this realization, this confrontation with the unknown, that leaves us feeling vulnerable, exposed, and ultimately afraid. A cultural phenomenon, the smiling man. The smiling man, whether real or imagined, has become a cultural phenomenon. His image has been shared countless times, his story told and retold around campfires and in hushed whispers late at night. He has become a modern-day boogeyman, a cautionary tale whispered to children to keep them in line. But unlike the monsters of our childhood, the smiling man feels real. He exists in the shadows of our collective consciousness, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks at the edges of our reality. The smiling man's story has been shared and reshaped through countless online forums, blog posts, and even podcasts dedicated to exploring the unknown. Some recount their own chilling encounters, while others analyze the phenomenon, attempting to separate fact from fiction. The very act of sharing these stories, of trying to make sense of the unexplainable, speaks to a deeper need within us to connect, to find solace in the shared experience of fear. Confronting our deepest fears. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the smiling man is not his appearance, but what he represents. He is the embodiment of our deepest fears, a physical manifestation of the anxieties that plague our waking hours and haunt our dreams. He is the stranger lurking in the shadows, the unseen observer, the reminder that we are not always in control. He represents the fragility of our perceived safety, the thin veil that separates us from the chaos that lies just beyond the edges of our comfortable reality. And it is this realization, this confrontation with our own mortality and vulnerability, that makes the smiling man so utterly terrifying. He is a mirror reflecting back our own deepest fears, forcing us to confront the darkness that resides within us all. The lingering smile. The encounter with the smiling man, however fleeting, leaves an indelible mark on those who experience it. Long after the encounter has ended, the image of his unsettling grin lingers in the mind, a haunting reminder of the fragility of our reality. The world, once a familiar and comforting place, now seems fraught with unseen dangers, the shadows themselves taking on a sinister life of their own. The smiling man's story serves as a chilling reminder that there are things in this world that we may never fully understand. It is a story that stays with us, lurking in the shadows of our minds, a constant source of both fascination and dread. And as we navigate the dark corners of our own lives, we are left to wonder if perhaps we too will one day find ourselves face to face with the unsettling grin of the smiling man.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more such videos.